No, this BYU tampering thing keeps popping up. I have one word to react to it. Yawn.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. Who's starting at quarterback for Alabama? I'll get a bullet point put on that later here on YouTube. Thoughts on Boise State extending their head coach, all on today's show. So is Drake 12, as I accidentally called him one time, but I stick with it. So this keeps popping up, Drake, that BYU is just out there tampering with every single player in the Big 12. Not actually, but it's kind of the way it feels sometimes. I bring this up to consistently communicate my position on tampering in this world of college football. I don't care. I don't care. It's so prevalent. This is the modern day equivalent, Drake, of getting up in arms about the SEC paid Trent Richardson or Mark Ingram to go to Alabama, or they paid Joe Burrow to go to LSU.
Cam Newton. Can we please say Cam Newton here? Like the most.
Cam Newton got paid. Like, at the time, I was upset. Then I grew up, matured, realized how the real world works, and realized, oh, this wasn't a big deal at all, and everybody was doing it. Like, this is how I see it. Am I completely off base here? Am I detached from the Big 12 conversation?
So I'll tell you where this came from. There is a BYU source who reached out anonymously, but very trusted, has said multiple things to me that I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this guy's actually, he lives in Provo, is really well connected, said that it was on the Oklahoma State side, BYU side. I was able to corroborate. There's an Oklahoma State defensive tackle who will very likely jump ship, go to BYU. Mike Gundy apparently told the kid, well, then go. Explore the opportunity. Also visiting Utah. And this is going to matriculate in BYU having another major transfer portal entry and another fan base out of the Big 12 who is complaining that BYU is tampering. From the BYU source, he's all but locked in. They tried to get him when Oklahoma State signed him out of Utah Tech, but couldn't pull it off then. He's a perfect fit for what they need at nose tackle with Jay Hill's defense. From there, Utah fans, Oklahoma State fans, everybody under the sun's like, tampering. I'm going to say it right now. Stephen A. Smith, we don't care. We don't care. And what tampering is in the modern era of college football is not too dissimilar from what it was with Cam Newton in Auburn in 2010 when the bag man met him in the McDonald's parking lot or whatever it was with $100,000. Today, those bag men just have names like Tyson or names like McLean at Baylor, where the former owner of the Houston Astros is like, yeah, here's some money, and NIL is a legal public thing now.
You say Tyson like Tyson Foods?
Yeah, like not like Mike Tyson. I don't think he's giving money to college kids, but Tyson Foods at Arkansas. There are plenty of donors who go to the Roy app, for example, and are like, all right, here's $2 million. You can, I right now, if I really, really wanted to, could reach out to your favorite player from your favorite team, whoever you are, and say, I'll give you $2 million to go to Baylor, $2 million to go to Texas Tech. The NCAA cannot stop me. They're not my governing body. I can do whatever I want. And if that kid's like, yeah, well, checks out, then he can sign a contract. That means nothing, by the way. Unenroll from his school, doesn't even have to enter the transfer portal, and go somewhere else. So I think tampering needs to be reevaluated when it comes to fans screaming about it. It's not the head coach of the BYU Cougars, Kalani Sitake, picking up the phone and calling a player on Alabama's roster and saying, we want you to be a Cougar. No, it's a friend of a friend who knows the guy's strength and conditioning coach or speed coach from high school saying, yeah, 1.5 is the number, you in or you out. And from there, kids are going to evaluate their future opportunities. Oh, you tampered. Get your money up, not your funny up. You're just complaining that you're poor. Sorry.
Wow. That was heated. That felt directed at someone. By the way, let it be known, Drake apparently has $2 million in his bank account. I look at this whole issue, and tampering, by the way, is Just the most overused word. I think I heard the Inside the NBA guys a while back talk about this with regards to the NBA free agent cycle, that like Paul George had been tampered with. And I think it was Chuck who said, like, what in the world are we talking about? Yeah. What, he sent him a text asking, are you interested in coming here? Like, is that what we're doing? What's the window of availability? Yeah, okay. Are we actually going to operate in a world where a coach, anyone, a player can only reach out to a player on another team if that player is officially in the portal and it's all processed? I know of a coach who's been suspended for a game because of a situation in which a text was sent before a kid's, like paperwork went through, basically. But he was going to go in the portal. And it's like, guys, what are we even doing here? What problem are you trying to solve? Like that's what I come back to. What problem are you trying to solve, Drake?
Would you say a 19-year-old college wide receiver is an adult?
Legally speaking,
for sure.
Yes. Do I view him that way? No.
Yeah, we say kid a lot. Do you think that a 49-year-old head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks is an adult?
100%.
Absolutely. So Jeff Long was the athletic director at the University of Arkansas. He hired Bobby Petrino there, right? And everybody knows how that went and the John L. Smith. It was bad. Well, in the middle of that, during those coaching searches, he got continual phone calls from Les Miles, who was at LSU at the time. The reason being, Miles, who, whether he was loyal or not to LSU, Miles wanted more money. He was shopping jobs. Why? Because he was an adult who cared about his future, his family, and money. So he would call Jeff Long. Long would say, we're in active conversations with Les Miles. LSU would pay him more money. But the 19-year-old, the younger, less experienced, more immature kid who probably needs the money a whole lot more than Les Miles can't do that, because at that point they are like, this is the difference in me working for KPMG or Deloitte. Oh, you weren't loyal to Deloitte. KPMG offered you $2 million more and you took it. Ooh, I'm mad. Why? Rework in your brain how you're viewing these players. They're not your little puppets to play around with and root for on Saturdays at your school. They are business people now. They are paid employees of these programs. And if you can't accept that and you get ticked off and up in arms over tampering, then college football is going to be a miserable experience for you.
Yeah, I'm in that particular camp. And look, there is a more mercenary element to the way college football players act nowadays, and I've adjusted to it because it's just the way that it is, and I work in this space. It's not going anywhere.
Sure.
I do empathize with particularly the more old school fans, of which there are plenty at colleges and universities graduated in the 90s, 80s, or early 2000s, who have become accustomed to their entire lives playing college sports meaning something beyond the dollars. I just think that was never a sustainable model. It was always likely to come to this, and if you didn't see that coming, well, then you weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
And so the whole tampering thing, like, I can get on board with a penalty if you can prove it actually happened for something during the season, okay, but am I going to come on here and lobby for that for a week straight on my show because that's what's going to fix college football? No, the people are going to talk to people. And by the way, to your tampering point with players, like coaches, when they leave a school, have been talking to that school. When Jonathan Smith left Oregon State for Michigan State, he'd been talking to Michigan State while he was the head coach at Oregon State.
Yeah.
That's totally fine with everyone. But all of a sudden the players do it, and it's not so much that I feel like they lash out at the players. I feel like the backlash comes against the schools who are, or coaches or whoever is initiating that conversation. It's like, well, wait a minute. Why are you not mad about this over here? And it feels like you're just using this as a way to paint a negative depiction using a word like tampering that doesn't have just one actual definition. It's just kind of something that gets thrown out.
Yeah, this is by and large a Fugazi. The whole tampering thing.
Fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's fairy dust.
In the same way that the transfer portal now, that the kid that went from Wisconsin to Miami was
Xavier Lucas, legend of college football.
Yeah.
I will never forget that story, that he just decided the portal is fake, you morons.
Yeah. And the NCAA was like, he's got a point. They were stuck. Everyone was stuck.
Shoot, we didn't think about that.
He unenrolled and then re-enrolled. We can't stop him, I guess. It's the same way that this whole tampering thing, NIL now, it's so far out of the hands of college football head coaches. There's a reason that GMs are being hired across this sport, because someone else is going to handle these kind of things and have donor relations, as they're the ones that are giving money to these student athletes. The coaches can hopefully worry about more of the X's and O's that have been taken away from the game so much, why guys like Nick Saban are out of it now. So tampering, you just gotta grow up. You got to grow up a little bit and understand.
Just stop acting like it's a big deal. It's not. And by the way, random fans out there who get up in arms about tampering, your $100 against mine. Think your school's ever done it before? I know which side of that bet I'd want to be on. Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12. We're going to the SEC next because Alabama is going to start somebody at quarterback, right? Drake doesn't care, but you are going to care, of course. First, this episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. All-in-one convenience is what they're all about. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's half. monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Check them out at monarchmoney.com. Who's starting at quarterback for Kalen DeBoer in year two? Luke Robinson of Locked On Alabama is here to discuss just that. So spring football, we put a nice tidy bow on everything, Luke. And do we have a starter in Tuscaloosa, or is it, we think it's this guy, but it could be that guy? What about this guy too? Where are we at?
Well, Ryan Grubb, I thought was very PC in his response when asked about this. He said, look, if we played tomorrow, it'd be Ty Simpson. And I think that is a great way to phrase this, because what it does is it makes Ty Simpson feel like, okay, I'm in the starting spot, but it also lets other guys know, hey, we don't play tomorrow, so you've got time to catch up. If they said unequivocally that Ty Simpson is the starter, I think that it could, I don't know about hurt feelings, but I maybe hurt some feelings. And it could be a motivational factor, but it could also be a deflating factor. So I think saying it the way he did left the door open for Austin Mack or Keelan Russell, who I think ultimately will be Alabama starter, whether it's next year or the year after. But Ty Simpson is better than people think. There are a lot of people that just remember him for playing some in the South Florida game in Nick Saban's last season. Or they remember the fact, I think it was against Middle Tennessee State. I'm having a hard time remembering who it was against, but he took off for like an 80-yard run, got to the end zone, and did what so many kids do these days, drop the ball in celebration just before he crossed, which never makes sense to me, but I'm 52, and I'm, when you're that old, when you pass 50, you automatically have to start complaining about some of the things that you do. And I got a notice in the mail. I had to start doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
From the government. And, but yeah, he did that. And I think people remember things like those and say, is he really any good? It's not fair to judge him on the performance against South Florida or that particular one play, in my opinion. I think he's got the most experience of the bunch. He was a very ballyhooed quarterback coming out of high school, out of Tennessee. His dad was a coach. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he just needs to know, hey, I'm going to be the guy and have some confidence in that role. And he's got one of the best receiving rooms in the country. Got Ryan Williams coming back. Got Jeremy Bernard coming back. Isaiah Horton's come over from Miami, and he looks fantastic, according to all reports. They got some freshmen like Latsier Brooks. They got Jalen Hills coming back off an injury. So they've got some dudes. And Alabama, I think, has 7 tight ends on the roster now. Now, 3 or 4 of them are all blocking type tight ends. And I have discovered that Kalen DeBoer loves to sign tight ends, and he loves to sign defensive backs. It feels like every time there's a recruiting update, it's one of those 2 positions. But my point is, Ty Simpson's going to have a good receiver room to work with, and also going to have some running backs that I think can catch the ball well, like Jam Miller. He's sort of known for catching the ball well. So I think whoever it is at starter, and I do believe it'll be Ty Simpson, I think they have a lot to work with.
Yeah, that South Florida game, wasn't that the monsoon?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're drawing a takeaway on Ty Simpson based on that game, I don't know who does succeed in that game.
Well, if that game is one that everybody remember, and what they'll forget are the circumstances leading up to that game. That game was directly after Alabama lost at home to Texas. Jalen Milroe was the scapegoat for that particular loss to Texas, even though his game wasn't awful. I mean, he had some bad interceptions. He also had some really nice touchdowns. And Alabama just couldn't get a stop when they needed to against Texas. They had the lead, I think, going right at the end of the third quarter or going into the fourth, and they couldn't keep it. Well, after that loss, and it was a 10-point loss, if I remember right, and it sort of felt like that was the dethroning of Nick Saban, right? I think the whole team was just kind of crestfallen, and they had to pin the bad play on somebody. Jalen Hurts was an easy target, and I think it was almost Nick Saban saying, okay, y'all all want to blame Jalen Hurts? Fine. Let's blame Jalen Hurts. Let's put these other dudes out there and see how they do. And frankly, it just wasn't great. Now, it was a monsoon, as you say, but people forget that. That in the end, people are just going to remember Alabama won that game. Was it 17-3, something like that?
Yeah, I think 17-3. I think
it was a very unattractive game overall. And Alabama, I think, played 3 quarterbacks in that game. So it's not like it was just Ty Simpson stinking it up all over the place. But again, that's all we have to go on. So people are going to hang on to that as if it's the gospel. And it is really not fair.
Yeah, the Ty Simpson, the discussion around him should be really, really positive, because he is what so many people clamor for in college football, because it's somewhat of a rarity nowadays. He came in as a highly rated recruit in the class of, what was it, 2021, 22?
Yeah.
Like,
so I think it was 21.
Yeah, like, he's been around for a long time. He didn't transfer. He didn't bolt when he didn't get to play. He sat behind a couple of guys, one of whom was younger than him, in Jalen Milroe, waited his turn. Now here's his opportunity to go start for Alabama. By the way, Ryan Williams is going to be 17 years old forever, right? Like, that's also a rule. I think that,
as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think that's governmental decree. But I think that for Ty Simpson, there's a real opportunity. He's kind of the opposite of Garrett Nussmeier, who's played a lot more football than he has. But I think there is a little bit of, a unique element compared to the rest of college football, where quarterbacks are plug and play. They want to play immediately. They all want to come in like Keelan Russell and then start as a true freshman. Like, I respect that he has he's stuck it out for as long as he has. By the way, I also did not expect my Seahawks to make Jalen Milroe their potential quarterback of the future.
I think it's a great landing spot for Milroe. We talked about that on Locked On Bama, because I think he needs to get away from Tuscaloosa, not because he's hated in Tuscaloosa, nothing like that. I think this gets him far enough away from people who probably don't know a ton about him, and when they do get to see him initially, they're going to find out, okay, yeah, maybe he's off target sometimes, but he runs like the wind, and he's a great dude. I mean, I'm telling you, I've met Milroe a couple of times myself, had more than just a casual conversation with him, and I can tell you he is just a good dude, legitimately happy to be in his position and grateful. And he was raised right. I'm just telling you, he's a good dude. Y'all are going to like him in Seattle.
Yeah, and I was just so surprised. I was like, okay, maybe, possibly.
Well, why not?
Is that how it was?
It was a flyer pick. I mean,
yeah, it's a flyer pick in the third round, where I thought they could have gotten a starter. But anyway, Ty Simpson also has a flyer element to him, right? Because we don't really know what this guy's going to be. And I mean, there's no proven option for Kalen DeBoer here, right? In a season where I think he has to win, not to keep his job, but to avoid being on the hot seat going into 2026. Sure. I think he's got to get Alabama to the playoff. He has got no proven commodities at the quarterback position.
Saturday Down South, one of their writers picked their preseason, way too early power rankings. They had Texas at 1 because they have a lot of faith in Arch Manning. Even though, again, we know about Arch Manning and we certainly know his last name and his heritage, but we haven't seen a ton. Then they had LSU 2 because they love Garrett Nussmeier, just overlooking the fact that LSU's defense has been rather porous. And then they had like Georgia because they have faith in Gunnar Stockton. Then they had Ole Miss because he said, I love Austin Simmons, what he brings to the table. Well, we haven't seen him yet. And then they also love Marcel Reed at Texas A&M. They had him at number 5. And I was like, the same. Again, I like Marcel Reed too, but he is the same quarterback that lost at Auburn last year and only Auburn's second conference win. And then they had Alabama at 6. And you know what their explanation was? We just don't know what Alabama's quarterback situation is with Ty Simpson. Who in the world knows? I'm like,
that's inconsistent.
That's my point. Everybody seems to have faith in Gunnar Stockton or Austin Simmons, even though Austin, by the way, Ole Miss's team lost a lot of big-time wide receiver draftees. A lot of them went on to the next level. They don't have the same guys they're throwing to this upcoming year. And then they have faith in all these other cats that I just mentioned, but nobody can seem to find a place in their heart for Ty Simpson right now. And I think it's kind of unfair. Ty Simpson is being judged on the little we've seen, and other people are being given the benefit of the doubt because we haven't seen him at all. That's what's weird.
Well, what I love about the SEC this year, I don't think there's a team having Texas the favorite. That's fine. Their defensive front is going to be disgustingly good. Disgustingly good, because Colin Simmons is, he's going to be a top 10 pick.
Yeah, he's a dude.
One day in the NFL. He's really, really good, and not the only guy that they have in that room. But up and down the SEC, it's Garrett Nussmeier and no one else who we can for sure say, you as a starting quarterback for an entire season give me 100% confidence in what you're capable of producing. I haven't even seen Lenore Sellers for an entire year, who I really like, by the way. And I can like all these guys, but it's question marks all over the place. And I think that's the benefit for Alabama, where there have been a lot of veteran quarterbacks that have run the SEC, that have run college football for years. This is kind of the year of turnover. Like, where are the veteran quarterbacks? You can do this exercise in the Big Ten as well. Where are the veterans? Last year it was Will Howard. It was Dylan Gabriel. It was those sorts of guys. Now you look around like, it's just, and you in your mind have that thought or instinct of, well, there's got to be a veteran. You're like, where are they? And go up and down the SEC, like you said. Where are the veterans? They're not there.
Also, people hate on Ty Simpson some because they're like, well, if he couldn't beat Jalen Milroe out. Again, for whatever reason, some people got in their minds Jalen Milroe was not a good quarterback, and they just couldn't. You couldn't convince
I think it was the Vanderbilt game. I think that was it.
But let me say this about the Vandy game. That wasn't his worst. The Oklahoma game was a lot worse for Milroe.
Yes.
For Bama, I think the Vandy game was worse. But for Milroe, the Oklahoma game was far worse. And he also had a really poor effort on an interception where he tried to tackle somebody and it just looked like, dude, come on, you got to give a little more than that. And it just wasn't there that night. But that's the same guy that also ran for 4 touchdowns against LSU. By the way, for the second time in 2 years, running for 4 touchdowns against LSU. That's pretty good. So, again, I think Ty Simpson is being unfairly judged on the little information we have. If we hadn't seen Ty Simpson at all, I swear I think people would be higher on it. Because in their minds, it's sort of like Jaws was scarier before you saw the shark. When you just saw darkness in water and people being dragged underwater, the shark was scarier because it was what you think of in your mind. Now, when you see the shark get up on the boat, and even though it's my favorite movie of all time, I hated that.
Sorry, I had to. Luke Robinson, Locked On Alabama, great as always. Boise State extended their head coach. Do I love that? I might. I just might love it. First, this episode brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. The all-in pricing means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. And I have used that feature multiple times with Game Time myself. It's the best. You're going to love it and everything else Game Time has to offer. Take guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So recently, Boise State extended their head coach, Spencer Danielson, a 5-year deal running through 2029. He now makes about $2.2 million per year. This comes on the heels of a second straight Mountain West championship. He was the interim coach and turned things around, won the conference title, and then was named the full-time head coach, and then won another conference championship, went to the playoff. They were more competitive than the final score indicated against Penn State. Now, no more Ashton Genty, lost some receivers, did get a defensive lineman back who had previously announced his intentions to enter the transfer portal. But I'm not talking just about the 2025 season here. I wonder if Danielson is the next Chris Petersen, because Petersen was there from 2006 to 2013 before he took the Washington job. And he'd been around. Like, Petersen had some other jobs. He'd been at Boise State for a very long time, and then he went to Washington eventually. Spencer Danielson's 36 years old. He's coached at his alma mater, Azusa Pacific. He also played at San Diego. He was a linebacker. Azusa Pacific is a now dormant Division II football program. And he's been at Boise State. Graduate assistant, defensive end coach, inside linebacker, defensive coordinator, interim head coach, head coach. It's been Boise State all the way. So I don't think in the short term, given the amount of buzz, or lack of buzz, rather, that he generated in the coaching carousel a season ago, he's a prime candidate to bounce for another year. I will say, for someone that got to the college football playoff and has won 2 straight conference championships, I know Boise State is a group of 5. It's the Mountain West. It's not the SEC. $2.2 million is lower than I thought it would be. I thought it would be closer to at least 3, if not 4, but we'll see. Maybe that's something that comes in time as they, generate excitement and buzz and get money from donors and whatnot. We'll see if that remains. I wouldn't be surprised if we can talk about a Spencer Danielson extension again, or contract adjustment going into next year as well. Like, maybe they tack on 1 year and raise the salary up to $3 million. I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. Eventually, even though he's been at Boise State, he doesn't have a direct tie. There's no alma mater. There's no other place that he's been that he might want to gravitate back to. Chris Petersen was also a longtime Boise State guy. He'd been there for over 12 years when he left Boise State for Washington. Now, is the Washington job coming open anytime soon? Is that the only job that Danielson would consider taking? I don't know. I haven't talked to him about it. Certainly, though, a coach of his caliber, if he puts Boise State into the playoff 3 times in a 5-year span, he's going to get a lot of looks. He's not 40 years old yet. This is the trend in college football. You've got Dan Lanning at Oregon, who isn't 40. Kenny Dillingham is the youngest coach in all of college football. Like, just list the examples. It's one of the reasons I'm not crazy about the Bill Belichick move. It doesn't mean veteran coaches can't work. Curt Cignetti at Indiana, absolutely, that option is available. But what you're seeing across the country is a lot of programs will want that young, up-and-coming guy because of the juice that it provides. Because when you bring someone in who isn't even 40 years old to be your head coach, you get the sense he's going to be able to recruit. He's going to bring in players. There's an energy, there's a dynamic feel. And guess what? Curt Cignetti created that over at Indiana. Kenny Dillingham had it when he arrived at Arizona State. Cignetti went out, won so many games, he has reignited that fan base in Bloomington and the donors and everybody, and he's got a big extension, and he's locked up there. And that's a good move on Indiana's part because Curt Cignetti is a really, really good coach. But when Kenny Dillingham came to Arizona State, you all of a sudden had the feel the first season wasn't very good. conference championship in year 2. They're recruiting at a level that they haven't in the last several years. That's the appeal of getting a young guy. So I'm saying this as a word of caution to the Boise State fans and community out there. You better make sure that he's well taken care of if you want to keep him around, because this is a guy who, from the moment he's been the head coach, has just won football games. That's it. Boise State for a while was a good program, but not a great program. With, Brian Harsin, they were teetering on great. With Andy Avalos, they were good, but not great. That's why Avalos was removed. And then, boom, Danielson comes in. They feel great again. They went toe-to-toe with Oregon. They were competitive with Penn State in the college football playoff. They won the Mountain West Championship again against a good UNLV team who they beat for a second time. This is what the Boise State of old in the Chris Peterson era felt like, where it was playoff or bust every single year. I don't know if you can place that expectation on Boise State this particular year, but you're really not that far away from getting back to that feel. Because if they do go make the playoff this year, they're certainly capable. They're going to be one of the favorites in the Mountain West, and they should be. And in the New World Pac-12, they're going to be a big contender there too. Oregon State and Washington State have shown they're capable of building quality programs. Guess what? Washington State was a good team last year, couldn't beat Boise State. It was in Boise, sure, give you that. Tougher to play in Pullman. But there's no way going into the New World Pac-12 that the Broncos aren't going to be one of the top teams every single year. It's why they were brought in. Because Oregon State, Washington State, Pac-12 Commissioner Teresa Gould know, they can be really good year in and year out. So I think that number is a little bit low. Maybe it's because he's not old. Maybe it's because he's only done it once. Do not be surprised if he has another contract negotiation, a renegotiation rather, next year, because it's not going to, at Boise State, get up to the levels of what Ryan Day, Dabo Sweeney, Brian Kelly make in college football, Dan Lanning at Oregon, Kirby Smart, just keep going down the list. It's not going to be in that range. I thought $2.2 million was low for a guy that has won 2 conference championships in basically 1.5 seasons as the head coach. That's pretty darn impressive. I'd watch for that to change, or else another program could come and get him. But he certainly seems very all in on Boise State. It's the only major program he's ever coached at. You have that as an upside if you're a Broncos fan out there listening to or watching this segment. But I just wonder, has he not created any buzz yet because he's waiting for the right job to come open? Or is he not, someone whose name comes up a ton when coaching vacancies arise because he doesn't want them to? That's something I'm monitoring, because Spencer Danielson appears to be a really, really good head coach. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.